Welcome back, listeners, to another interesting conversation on the BizBlend podcast, where we untangle the business of impact, innovation, and the people powering it all. Now, today we are diving into the heart of South Africa's early childhood development space, where passion meets enterprise and edtech is rewriting the roots. And listeners, my guest is a powerhouse of social innovation. Meet Tracey Chambers. She is co founder and CEO of Grow ECD and Taking Care of Business. With a background in finance and future focused on transformation, Tracy is helping thousands of women run their preschools, not just as centers of care, but as sustainable, living businesses, thriving businesses. So, we are going to unpack how digital tools, business training, and blended finance they are reshaping early education for underserved communities, and why this model could be a blueprint for a global change. So, Tracy, welcome to the show, and I'm really honored to have you here with us.
Thank you very much, Sona. Looking forward to chatting to you.
So Tracy, to begin with, um, when we look at edtech and the entire industry, so uh, many people they view early childhood centers as passion projects. Um, how did you identify that there is a need to shift them into professionally run businesses? And how did communities respond to this mindset shift?
Yeah, so in the South African context, most ECD centers were started by amazing women who have a heart for children. They in their communities, mostly living in low income communities, and seeing children, on the streets. Moms have to go to work. We have a very high prevalence of single mothers in South Africa, and she really just doesn't have any care for her child while she needs to go out and earn an income. And so many women start what I would have called daycare centers and are largely running babysitting services because she doesn't have necessarily an understanding of what a quality early learning program needs to contain. And that is because she didn't experience quality learning herself. I could copy a program because I went to a great early learning center myself, and my children have gone to great early learning centers, but she was essentially, doing the best with the little that she has. And in most cases, she, we talk about her having a heart for children, not necessarily understanding that she was starting a little business. She's dependent on fee income to pay the bills, and therefore it is a business. And so um, we really essentially conceptualized the idea of an ECD business in a box. What are all the components that she needs that we could design so that literally she could follow a formula and follow a recipe? And that's really how we went about it, is bringing her all of the resources, whether it's curriculum, whether it's teacher training, whether it's administration tools, whether it's parent engagement tools, all of the component parts that I'd seen in wonderful ECDs, bring them together, combine them together into one playbook that she can then utilize to improve the professional and professionalize her ECD center.
Hmm. That is really, really encouraging and empowering as well. And um, uh, when we talk about Grow ECD, Tracy, it uses technology in a sector that is often low tech or offline. At least, especially post pandemic when we are talking about. So, how have you introduced ed tech focused tools to preschool owners who may have, just to assume, less or limited digital literacy?
Yes, so South Africa has a high penetration of smartphones. I almost don't know somebody doesn't have a smartphone in South Africa. Many people almost have two smartphones. Our biggest challenge in South Africa is actually the cost of data. Data costs are very high. I think we have one of the highest data costs in the world. So we had to develop a solution. She was comfortable working with a smartphone, but we had to develop a solution that was data light, and she wasn't scared to use it because it was going to, essentially absorb her data the minute she opened it. And so we've managed to deploy solutions that are what we call reverse billing. So where she's having to download resources, we pay for the costs of those resources, and we've also built our app in a data light manner. What we did is essentially we built a solution based on our own experience. So we ran the Grow model, let's call it manually, where we had forms and books and all the pieces of the puzzle were paper-based pieces of the puzzle. And so once we had done that, we knew what she needed, and we knew what would work, and we knew her very well, and then we knew her business and how it operated very well. And so we built our app. We've always said was designed by Africans for Africans. We looked at the international landscape. There are a number of school management apps out there, but they all assumed she had a computer. They all assumed that she had, easy access to cost-effective data. And so we built something that was relevant for this market, and a fully integrated platform. So we say we've got a 48-piece puzzle that's part of this recipe book. We built it all into one app so that she doesn't have to do things twice, and she can find everything she needs in one place. Because that's the other problem with tech, is there's a lot of tech being built, and the dissemination is the challenge. People don't even know the tech exists because there's a plethora of tech out there that they can't even find it. So we built one platform with everything in one platform. We encourage other organizations to use our platform, to build on our platform, and really be this what we call this one-stop shop for an ECD business owner.
Wow, that's really interesting, Tracy. I mean, quite a mindful approach, understanding the scenario, the problems at the grassroots level, and then designing solutions according to them. And it really seems like it has been made with an intention to make it easier, more accessible, kind of a one-time investment for the women who are running these ECDs as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of administration when you're running an ECD center. Let's assume in many cases our ECD centers have 60 to 80 learners. So just gathering the data, when we started working with the ECDs, she didn't even have an enrollment form. She had a parent's WhatsApp details on her phone. That was as much as she knew about the child. Um, so we started with an enrollment form, gathering all the data. Does this child have any, um, allergies, or who's the next of kin I should call if I can't get hold of mommy? All of those things to de-risk her business and to make sure that she's running a professional business. And
Mm.
and so the what we've done is we've made sure that she only has to put the data in once. So she was capturing this learner data on a piece of paper. Then when she wanted to do maybe progress reports for the child, she'd have to capture more information on a piece of paper. Now what we do is we take the learner data, and it flows through, it can be used for multiple things. So we use it to capture the learner record, we use it to do a learner progress report. We use it to send a note to the parents every day on the child's how their day went. That would have been done in a little book and sent home with the child. And we use it as an organization to basically assess children and how a business is doing as well as how a learner is doing. So it has by putting data in once and using it multiple times, it also has multiple uses. And I think, our whole goal is to make sure she runs a more professional business, but also that she runs a more efficient business. We need her to spend her time in the classroom,
Mm.
or managing her staff so that they run great classrooms. We don't want to be wasting her time on unnecessary administration.
Hmm. Of course, of course. Oh, that really makes sense, Tracy. And you have trained, supported thousands of women through Grow ECD, TCB. Uh, have you, what kind of mindset shifts have you seen as most critical for these women to move from survival to strategic focus, strategic entrepreneurship?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we first engage a woman, as I said, she's got a great heart for children, but but her head for business is underdeveloped. And but she's also got, sometimes a charity mind. So she's, scooped up these children, taken responsibility for them while their parents are working, and she feels a sense of duty. And in many cases, she's actually exploited by parents. They don't pay her fees, or they're paying her very, very little for the service that she's offering. And so we do a lot of work with her mind around um, really shifting, asking her to step into the world of a social entrepreneur, getting her to say it's okay to say that you're a business owner, and that you deserve to be paid for the service that you're offering. Um, if you're not paid for the service that you're offering, you're not going to be able to offer a professional service, because you're not going to have sufficient income to pay teachers. If you don't pay teachers, well, you're never going to be able to run a quality program. So, income is a necessary evil, if you want to put it that way, to run a professional business. And showing her, by giving her a quality program, we always say we help women to run 5-star early learning centers. She's often very doubtful. She lacks confidence in the business that she's running. By giving her an accredited program to say this has been reviewed by, you know, um, top organizations, it's been signed off. Our curriculum has a 93% pedagogical excellence score from the Education Alliance for Finland. And getting her to say, I have the best, I am the best. She then grows in confidence, and that improves her relationship with parents. She's actually able to say, I deserve to be paid. This is what I deserve to be paid. And if you don't pay me, I'm okay that you take your child out of this school, and it changes the power dynamic in the parent relationship, and it changes her own self-confidence, so that she can back herself. I think that is what some of the biggest challenges, is that she doesn't back herself.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's such a great example of blending profitability with purpose. So that is something really to appreciate of this. And uh, Tracy, in your I think our listeners will love to know your journey as well. I mean, you went from corporate finance to then social enterprise. So what leadership lessons have been most surprising for you, or maybe most humbling in your journey?
Yeah, so my personal journey, I grew up in South Africa. For the listeners, I'm a white South African. I grew up in the midst of apartheid, and had no understanding of really what it was like to live in poverty. Zero understanding of that. And when I spent 20 years in the corporate world, and at the age of 40 decided that I needed to do something to build this nation, not just make money for shareholders, um, but to actually build this nation. And so I started my social enterprise called Taking Care of Business in 2010. And quickly realized that I knew nothing about the work that we wanted to do in terms of helping. Our mission is to help unemployed South Africans start small businesses. That's our mission. And Grow is one of those small businesses that we help women start and improve. And what we had to understand is really the deep rooted psyche and hardwires of individuals that have grown up in poverty with lots of trauma, and that's how that holds people back. So something that is easy for me is not easy for her. We you know and so that in the early days we were very frustrated. We had simple business models that women could essentially, they were business in a box models. We've got a big model in clothing trading, and women were sabotaging the opportunities. We had widespread theft, and we were actually getting, quite quite angry and frustrated that here was a wonderful opportunity that she wasn't capitalizing on. And it was really only through that frustration that we had to dig deep in ourselves to actually start to really understand the human psyche. And once we did that and we got lots of specialists involved, we actually built our program around changing the psyche. The,
Mm.
the business only comes right when the psyche's changed. And so we work on basically rewiring the brain um, to, move away from the poverty mindset, to overcome the hardwires that have formed over many years. It's a slow process, it's a deep process. But when you get that right, the business comes right naturally. Yeah, so we've all been on our own journey, and working with people is challenging because everybody's at a different phase in their lives. I think when you're in an impact business and your livelihood is around, to fund is to prove that you're having impact. When you're working with the complexity of humans, you can have the most incredible program, but if the human's not ready for it, and the human's not prepared to do the work to rewire the brain to be able to capitalize on the opportunity, it all comes to nothing. And so, living myself as a high performer with uncertainty and complexity is certainly one of my most important lessons. And that programs, if you're working with humans, cannot be light touch programs. So we always say that all our programs work with heart, head, and hands. What we mean by heart is healing and rewiring. What we mean by head is giving people appropriate knowledge and skills, so that we don't overwhelm somebody who isn't good at maths with complex percentages in the business world, that we meet her where she's at, and she feels that she is able. So a little bit like our EdTech solution, it needs to be fit for purpose. If it was an American solution that I brought to South Africa, assuming that this would work for her, it would have failed. So making sure that the knowledge and skills is appropriate and that she feels that she has the right knowledge and skills to run the business that we're putting on offer. And then the third component, which is hands, is the only way you can reprogram your brain is to have new experiences. And so making sure that all of our training and development is translatable into actionable uh, things on a daily basis. So she's running a real business. She's doing work in a real way with her family, with her money, whatever the sort of retraining that we will be focusing on, it's actionable immediately so that we are building those new neural pathways.
Wow, wow, Tracy. I mean, that's really bold. It's hard hitting, and this is, change at a huge scale. But then also working and understanding each and every component and element playing their unique role into this. So that is really commendable, Tracy. And um, before we wrap up, Tracy, um, if our listeners they would like to connect with you and explore more about the work that you're doing through Grow ECD, and TCB, what would be the best way?
The best way is to go onto our website. We do have an email address there that you can use. So we have two websites. The first website is tcb.org.za. Through there, you can find our Grow website, but if you want to learn specifically about Grow, it's growecd.org.za. Also, do you have lots of YouTube uh, clips that you can access through that to learn a little bit more detail about exactly how the models work.
Wonderful. I'll make sure to have all the links in the show notes for our listeners. And Tracy, thank you so much because this is something I think such a basic part about education blended with technology, profitability blended with purpose. And I think you are not just building preschools, but you are building ecosystems of empowerment. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. Really appreciate it.
So, to all the listeners out there, whether it is teaching business fundamentals to preschool owners or leveraging edtech to elevate the quality of education, Tracy's work proves that you can do good and do well. So, if today's conversation listeners inspired you, share it with a friend or a colleague, tag us on the channels, and let's keep the conversation going about how we professionalize purpose driven businesses in the global south. Until next time, keep blending purpose with performance. This is BizBlend, and I'm your host, Nana, signing off. Thank you.